So that's more flexibility which Python provides, and you don't need to worry much on syntax pad as well. And any other questions before starting? I guess there are no questions, so we'll move forward. I'll just brief about yesterday's class that which we discussed on list. Maybe in 5 minutes, I'll just add everything which we discussed yesterday, so that you will also remember, and so we can go forward based on that. So just make sure that you understand list perfectly, because list is the data type which you use in most of every programming language you use, because that's the main thing which you will be using. Solve any programming language in any of your corporate exams or things. So make sure you understand these basic method which we use. The things which I'm sharing with you, those are the basic things which is required to manipulate the data inside a list, adding or deletion or whatever it is. So I'm sharing my screen. Let me know once you can see my screen. Can you guys see my screen? Let me know on the chat whether you can see my screen or not. Okay. Okay. So before starting, we'll just also brief little about list which we discussed yesterday. So here I'm creating a variable called list1, and I'm adding some data inside it. So maybe data1 and 2, 3, 4, data 5, like that. So I'm just adding multiple data types inside a list. So I'm adding strings and integers both. So we'll see what will happen if you're trying to. So here you can see the response. So maybe I'll. Here you can see the response which I'm getting. This is all the data which is there inside a list. So we'll see what will happen if you are trying to append something. So I'm trying to append 5 inside it. So after we append 5, so 5 is added at the end of a list. So basically, list. Insert, and I'm inserting 34. Data is 34, and I need to pass also indexes. So at what index I need to basically insert that particular thing. So before that, maybe I'll add index as well. I'm trying to find index of 4. inside a list. And here we are trying to add 3 at 34 at third index. Third basically means 0, 1, 2, 3. So it will come in between data 3 and 4. So here you can see the index of 4. 4 is here 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, which is 4. And the index is 3. And this is what it is. And here we are trying to add some data to it, which is 5, which is going at the end of it. And we are adding 34 as well at third index. Third index basically is data 2, 1, and here in between data 3 and 4. So this is how we can find these things. And here we can also find length of an list. So length of list is 7. So right now we have 7 data inside it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So this is how you find length of any list. So apart from this, I think these are the main things which we discussed yesterday. So we will we'll move on to the next part. So these are the things which we discussed yesterday. If you have any questions on this one, please add it on the chat. We can use print alone, sir, instead of 1 second. Sorry for that. I just got an important call. So yeah, so we were discussing something. We can use print alone instead of using print /n as a default. And yes, so we can also use it in that way that if we are trying to print something as a default parameter, print will take is /n. So we don't need to basically add /n over here. So just to you guys to remember, the /n will basically add it to a next line. I'm just adding it in that manner, but usually you don't need to add /n's. And so does list allocate continuous memory location? Yes. So you will be having a continuous memory location on your list as you are trying to access data in the same manner. that every data will be in a continuous manner. So if you want to, it will basically act as a linked list, which is also one more data structure which we do. If you are trying to find out the next index value, you can easily find out. So we will discuss a little more on that one, that how can we access present data and next data when we are trying to looping or iterating the entire list or something. So maybe then you will have a clear understanding about it. So but ID function is showing different location. So can you paste it on? So what you are trying to do and what's you are getting it over there. Okay, so maybe you can add it over here. So we'll move on to other parts by then, and we will discuss on something different. So right now we have list one, and I'm creating one more list, maybe something like this. And if we wanted to basically add these two lists, I want to add all the information which is there inside both of the list. So there are multiple things we can do to add to list. So if you want to add to list, so adding the entire to list is basically something like an union, but not exactly like an union, but we'll add it. We have an extend method which will so here you can see that we need to assign it to a variable. We cannot directly uh, print that value as we are extending it to the first list which we created. So right now it added all the elements which are there in the list 2. So right now all the elements which are there in list 2, it will append it to the end of list 1. So this will be the entire list data when you are trying to add to a list. So this how we, so right now we cannot assign it to any other variable. So we are basically adding that existing variable with the other variable information. But if you want to put it in some other data, maybe you can use it by plus operator. So when we discuss how do we add to integers in the same way, we can do this as well. So list 1 plus list 2 which we have. So instead of appending it, here you can see the information, the entire information which is added. So here what we are trying to do, the operation which we are trying to do here needs to be assigned to some variable. So here you are extending the existing variable, which is a list. But the below statement, so we are adding something, basically means one, we are doing 1 plus 2, but we need to store it someplace. Uh, it will basically it will execute, but we are not trying to do anything over here. So we are doing 1 plus 2, but we are not assigning it to any variable, or we are not trying to print anything anywhere. So if we try to print list 1, because of this operation, it will show the entire sum of these two lists completely. Like this. So these two will be depending upon situation. If you want to add another list to the existing one, or if you want to create a new variable and add it. So these two are two use cases where you uh, basically try to add any two list. There might be a situation where in some of your programming question you need to return some of these two lists, all the information which is there inside a list. So in those situations, maybe it will be helpful for you guys. Take a note of this one, and so I'm commenting this anyway. This doesn't do anything as we are not assigning anything and we are not doing anything over here. So you can add these, take out notes of this one. After typing list underscore one dot extend, it is not necessary. I'm just showing you two ways to add a list. So this is one way and this is one way. So you don't need to add again. So this is also one way to add to list. You don't need to do it. I'm just giving you an example of two ways to add to a list. This one way and this one more way. So this might return something different right now because we are extending it before. Yeah, we'll go one by one. So Surya, I just explained your question which you asked. We don't need to add it after extending it. Extend is a one way to add to a list, and this is the add parameter which we are doing is one more way of adding to a list. Here we need to assign it to one variable, but here you don't need to assign to variable. It will basically extend to the present list. So you are uh, trying to find the object value of it, and you are getting a different one over there. Hmm. So what's this path? I didn't get it. So what path are you giving over here? Okay, so you are using PyCharm, but I didn't get what path you are giving here. So why did you get path as in your output? Okay, so that's not your output basically. So you are trying to just uh, print that one. So yeah, uh, so if you see, I think you are doing in a different way. So if you are trying to find idea of list one, we'll do it here, and we'll do the same after appending it, maybe after inserting it. So here you can see the location of the entire list even after adding some information is same. But when you're trying to access the data which is inside a list, it will be different. It won't be in the exact location because your particular list is in one place, but the information which is there inside will be pointing to at some other location. You won't have the same thing at everything at same location itself. So this will be at one place, and the information which is stored here, it will be coming from other place. So it will be mapped in that way. So you won't be having the same thing for the entire list which you are trying to find. Yeah. So this when you try to find the output of it, idea of it. So basically the location of that particular list. But when you're trying to find elements which are there inside one, it will be different, of course, because the list location will be at one point. The data which is inside the list will be in another location, each and every value which is there inside the list. I hope that's answered your question. Uh, with this memory of an object stored inside. No, so yeah, even if you try to find out, so right now you are trying to find out 0th and 1. So try to find out second one. If you are trying to add something, everything will be in a 32 bit. So it will be increasing based on some bit value which is 32, and every time you try to find out or increasing the index value of it and do it, it will increase by 32 of every time uh, the space it gonna take. Yeah, so every value which you are trying to put, it's not gonna take in just one bit. So every information will store in the 32 manner. So every value which you're trying to put, and it's gonna add some space to it, and it will go to the next value, and it will be in a continuous manner accordingly like that. I hope that answered your question. Okay. So if anybody else who has any question related to what Sanjay asked, maybe we can discuss on that one as well. Maybe I'll also explain from my side. So every time you try to store some data, of any variable or any information, it will store at one particular location. So same like how you put your mobile at one location, or maybe your pen and laptop at one location. Even every variable information will store at one location. That will be some integer of x, suppose. And the data which is there inside list. So right now we are having data inside list, but integer and string will act different. So the data which is there inside a list will store at one location as well. So if you are trying to see the location of first one, it will be on one point. Maybe I'll add it here. So ID of is 0. So every value which you are trying to so every time you try to add some data, it's going to add some value to it, and it's going to display in the same manner that we are trying to store some data at some particular location. Yeah, so before that, maybe we'll discuss what Arpan said. So where does memory of an object is stored in Python heap or stack? So every data which is the memory part, when it comes to memory part on Python, so every information will be stored in a stack manner. How do you find ID of list2? So if you want to find ID of anything, just put ID of whatever it is, but don't discuss much on this because you might not understand how exactly this works right now. But if you want to have an idea, you can directly see it, that if you want to find the location path of anything, so this will be it. So instead of you can do ID of in a quote brackets and put whatever the list you want. So here we got it. So don't confuse much on ID part. Maybe later on, once you have little understanding on Python, we can discuss situation when we get it. I hope that answered your question, Nitin. So I'm trying to show you list one. In the same way, you can try for list two as well, just by ID of it. But don't get confused on IDs things which we are doing right now. And so here we try to add and extend. So extend will basically do add the next data. So whatever the variable data which you are trying to give, it will append to this existing one. So in the same way, if you are trying to do plus operator and try to add two things, you have to store it in at some variable, because this particular execution will return something. So here it won't return anything. It will basically append the second data to the first one. So here you need to add it to some variable. Maybe let's suppose temp. Now temp will have some about list. So that's how we add it with these two methods. We'll move little forward on that one. So maybe if you want to remove some data, so there is one more method which we can use. It's called pop. So pop will basically remove some information at at the last index, and it will pop will basically remove it and get the value, and it will basically return some value. It won't directly remove it. So if you want to print this one, it's gonna return the value which is trying to pop it. So the information which we have over here is this, the entire list, and popping basically will do it from the last, and every value which you are trying to pop, it's gonna return it. So every pop you do it, it will return some value. And if you are trying to print, this 5 is not there right now because we popped it. Basically we removed it from the list. So that's how we remove any information if you want to uh, directly take it out from there. Maybe I'll check regular manner. If you have any questions, add it to the chat. So we'll parallelly discuss. So this is how we pop it. Please take a note of it, or if you have any questions, add it to the chat. I guess there are no questions, so we'll move forward. Maybe discuss little on two more things on list. And right now we have output of that. So this is the list which we have right now, and I want to reverse it. At few situations you will get some. You have to reverse your list, maybe your information which is there inside the list. So in those situations, you can use a method call which is there in list called reverse. So when you are trying to print it, it won't return anything because it's not an operator which will, it's not a method which will return something. It will return none. It's basically an execution which you are doing it. So you just need to call it same like how we extended it. It will basically reverse it to the existing list which we have. So we'll print it again. So it will reverse the entire list. So the first element will, last element will become first, and in the same way, everything will happen over here. So maybe in some of your programming questions, you might get this also programming that reverse an entire list. So on Python, you can do it in one go just by using a method which is there in list called reverse. And this is how we do it. I hope if you have any questions on this one, please make sure you remember that what all methods will return something, what all will not. So extend will not return anything. It will basically do the execution of it. And even same over here on reverse, it won't return anything, but pop will return something. So you need to make sure you remember these things, that there is a slight difference over here. Why empty braces are giving. So every value which you are, every braces which you are giving over here is a function. Everything which you are doing, try to do it over here is a method. So we are calling in a method manner because there is a program behind it which is already written from the library, the Python library which we are trying to use it. So that's why when you are not calling it like that, you are basically calling a method without accessing in a manner which it's supposed to be. So you'll, so when you are trying to access it in that way, you will get the address of it. So if you want to access any function, it's not just only on Python, even on any other languages. If you are trying to access any or execute any function, you need to use braces, curve braces. And if you're not using it, it's gonna return the type of it and location where the entire object is basically placed in. So I think you initialize the list one as a tuple. So we'll get to tuple later, but list everyone please remember the list should be in square brackets like this, not this. Should be in the first one, the square brackets one. I think you are giving initializing in a wrong manner, initializing the list in a wrong manner. Please check that whether you are doing it correctly or wrong. If you are doing in a correct manner, please add your program code which you read the small part so that I can see it. I think the issue which you are doing is this, that you are not using the correct braces. So by changing this, is it solve your problem? Please execute it and see whether, yeah. So that's the issue. That's the thing which you are doing wrong over there. So then you can try all the extend, pop, append, everything. So after this, maybe we'll try to sort it. So we'll take the list. So this is a list which is not in a series. It's not in an order. So everything is jumbled right now. So there is a method which we can basically sort it the manner which we exactly wanted. So list before sort, and we have a method called sort. So this will basically sort the entire array, and in the same way. So right now I'm trying to print the sort over here, which will not return anything. It's basically none. So this won't return anything. It's an execution which is doing to the existing one, existing variable. So it will sort it, and here we can print it. So you can see everything is sorted right now, 2, 2, 3, 6, 8, 9. And in the same way, if you want it to be in a reverse way. So here we can do in two things. So if you want to do this thing in reverse way, maybe you can store this, or maybe you can do the reverse operator which we are doing over here. Or maybe if you want to do so it reverses right now. Maybe if you want to write those two things in one line, I don't want to do two things in two lines. There is one more parameter which sort function takes. Reverse equal to true. Reverse. This will basically reverse the entire array and sort it. It won't reverse the array and sort it. It will sort it and reverse it. It will go in that way. So every value which you are passing over here is a parameter to that particular function. That sort function will take reverse as a parameter. Every method which you are trying to do won't take a parameter. So we'll get to maybe little more understanding what exactly a parameter is, uh, 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 why do we pass it, or when do we pass it. So why not there is no data in here? So why there is an empty one here? Why there is data in here? Because this particular method is expecting some value which you need to pass, and here it's not expecting. And same thing happens over here as well, that append is expecting something, because you're trying to append something, but what value? So this will do it. In the same way here you are trying to sort it, so even without passing any data, it will take it. It will do it in an increasing manner. But if you want it in a decreasing manner, so you can pass some data which is an optional parameter. So we'll discuss little later when we come to functions. So how do we create functions and how do we use it? Then you will understand that why we are passing it. So this is how we sort any information. Please add on the chat if you have any questions on sorting. Please let me know whether if it's clear or not. If you have any questions, please add it on the chat. If you have any questions which you wanted to ask and which you didn't, so you can ask it right now. I hope yesterday few people were facing difficulty that I am using Jupyter. So I'm using VS Code right now. Is it fine for you guys today that you are able to check it? Yeah. So you initialize one and so your output will be 4, because every pop, no, your output won't be, your output will be 4, because the list 1 will have 4, which is at the last index. So when you are trying to pop it, it will return the last value. It will take the 4 from out of the list and it will return it. So this basically the pop method will return something. So the something is the data which is removed from the list. So 4 is at the end, it will remove 4 from it and it will return it to it. Yeah. To reverse the sorted list, we type reverse equal to true in brackets. Inside the bracket, we need to write reverse equal to true. If we want to reverse the sorted array. So first basically it will sort it and it will reverse it. So there is some execution which will happen behind. So here you can see there, this is the library code which is already there. So there are multiple things which will be taken and which will be happening over here. So it's an inbuilt method which will sort it. So right now most of programming language has sort method, which will basically sort the array, whatever the information which is there inside. We don't have any, I think we have recording session, so maybe I'll ask with the team if they can share it with you guys. So after that we can use it. Is that fine? Yeah, so can we use list.sort and reverse? So when you are trying to do that, list, where is it? Yeah. So here you are trying to sort one function, sort one list basically. And if you want to, so this some flexibility which Python provides, that if you want to do some multiple execution, multiple lines of code, and you try to run it in one line itself. So you can do multiple things like that. So instead of copying it, and so many things you do. So you can write everything inside this or something like that. So you'll have little flexibility that if you wanted to do it, but there is a limitation to it, that you cannot do everything, uh, every method which you are trying to see over here. You cannot do everything on everything, because if you want to see the type of it, so instead of reversing it, we'll try to see the type of it. So we'll basically return none type, because we are not returning anything over here. It will basically return none. So right now you are trying to reverse a none type. You're not returning a list type over here. And you're trying to do something like this, which will basically sort it, and whatever the value which is this particular code is going to return is none, because it's not a method which will return something. And when you're trying to do something like this, it's not going to give anything. It will basically throw an error that you are trying to do some execution which is not there, not part of that variable data type. So this will throw an error when you're trying to do something like this. But when you are trying to do some execution, basically the reverse method on a parameter which will return a list. So in those things you can do. So we don't have it, but usually, so if there is any method which is returning a list completely, so maybe you can try doing on those things. If use list dots or reverse equal to true. Yeah, so that's what I'm trying to tell. So list dot sort, if you are trying to check it, the list which we are having, and sort method will return none. So here we are trying to return something which is none. Here we are trying to reverse something which is none, which is returning none. So this particular method will return nothing. It will do the execution only. So that's why it will throw an error. So maybe in casual terms, when we are talking it, that should be the flow. But when you are trying to do some execution, which you're calling a method, which is reverse is a method, which is part of list. You should do those things only on the list. But what you are trying to do over here on the sort is a none type. It won't return anything. So that's why it will throw an error for you. I hope that answered your question. So can we use dot for deleting some specific items from the middle of any list, sir? So yeah, so there is an operator to delete some variable. So we'll get to that when I want to explain that. Maybe on there is a concept called splicing the entire list. So maybe we'll discuss that on at that point. Instead of discussing it right now. So there is some so there's some big topic which we can do, basically remove some information or splicing some information from the entire list. Maybe we'll discuss that part when we get to that. So that would be much easier for you guys to understand. Yeah, so you'll get the recording. So uses of sort. Uh, so even uses of sort, even if I try to explain you, right now there is no real time problem which you see. But maybe if I give you an example, let's suppose you're trying to solve a problem on your competitive exam, and they are giving you a list of roll numbers, some roll number of 10 people. So let's suppose everybody who is coming inside the class, or maybe random numbers. So the first person maybe some roll number 20, and second person maybe roll number 7, like things like that. And but you want the people to be sitting in the same order, the order of roll numbers. So in those situations like that, maybe you'll erase a problem statement that you need to sort that. So it will input will be an array. Input will be a list of all the information which is inside it. So you need to sort that array so that everything will be an order. So this might be not a problem statement you might get, but there is a situation where this will be part of your code where you need to sort an array to move forward, or to do some execution of it. So that's why we do sorting. Basically, it's not necessary that you need to sort every time. There might be a situation where you can sort it, or where you need to sort it based on your problem statement or things which you are trying to achieve. Any more questions? There are lots of things which you need to remember on list, because all these methods which I explained right now will be useful at some point. So instead of writing some n number of lines of code, this particular single line will do all the things in Python. So if you try to remember or try to execute also from your side, that what can we do? So what this thing will happen, or if you're trying to do something different here and there, what exactly will happen? So please make sure that you also try from your side that all these things, all the methods which I am trying to show you, what will happen behind it, or what if you have to manipulate it. So please do manipulate also from your side. So we have one more thing on list. So right now I have this information. Uh, I forgot to ask uh, Sanjay that you are trying to uh, reverse something which is of an untype. I hope I answered your question. So please make sure you remember that which will return untype and which will return something. Sanjay, please respond that. Did you get what I was trying to say? Yeah. So you are trying to return something which is of a none type. So you need to return on a list. So only list will have a flexibility, of the method which is there in inbuilt is only for list. So that's why you might be getting an error over there. So here I have this information 638292, but I want to add all those information which is there inside. On other languages, so right now we have flexibility, but if you want to add it, you need to loop it and iterate the entire array. So instead of doing that, we have little inbuilt method on Python, which will help us to uh, join. So join is the method which we can use, but join will help us to add all the information. It won't add all the information which is there over here. It will basically uh, make every value which is there inside it as a string and concat it. It won't do the addition part of it. It will basically convert these numbers into a strings and it will add it. So when I'm trying to do this before sort over here, output of this will be something like this. So here we are uh, sorting it. So it will be in a sorting manner. 2, 2, and so on like that. 2, 2, 3, and things like that. I think we are. Yeah. So there is also one more thing which you need to remember, that when you are trying to concat all the values which is there inside a list or numbers. So it won't basically do all the execution, all the conversion of the data types on its own. So before adding it to it, so if you have any information, maybe student 1, student 2, student 3, and you want to if everything maybe a student name, maybe so everybody every information which we have over here inside is a name. So we want to add all those things. Maybe you might arrive a situation where we need to add all the data inside it. So in those situation, if you are trying to print it, everything will be in one string. So we need to pass. So here we have Rahul and Uday. So there might be a situation where you need to concat all the information which is there inside a list. So there are also decimators where we can give like what exactly information these information should be joined by. So here I want to join all the data, maybe comma separated. So it will join all the data comma separated. So here you can give the parameter which you wanted to join by. So even if you want to give ampersand over here, you give Rahul at Uday, like that. So when you are trying to concat much of information which is there inside your list, so you can do it in that way. Yeah. So we'll go one by one. Yeah. So there is also some method which will find you the sum of uh, some information, or maybe if you are trying to add any list, you can use sum over there. But we'll get to that one when we. So can we write multiple line comments in Python? Yeah. So right now you have this one, and here you can write like this. Yeah, yes. So yeah, so we'll get to the sum operator. So what exactly will sum will do? So maybe then I'll explain a little more on sum. So there is few more things which I need to explain before sum. So that's why I didn't take out the sum part. So you are adding triple quotes. What do you mean triple quotes? When you are trying to comment multiple lines, yes, not just triple quotes. You can also use double quotes as well, like this. So when you are trying to comment these things, yes, you can comment in that way. If you have any questions before we move forward, please add it on the chat. Please add it on the chat if you have any questions regarding the things which we discussed, or if everything is clear, we can move forward. Please respond whether everything is clear or not, or if you have any questions. Okay, so we'll move little on to a new data type, which is tuple. So before, most of the people, they were trying to initialize a list using curved brackets like this. So we have one more data type which will do those things, which will basically take the syntax as a curved braces, which is tuple. So there are few things which we can do using tuple. So right now we are trying to manipulate some information which is there inside a list by adding, subtracting, and things. But when you try to do the same thing using a tuple, it won't allow you to basically change the information which is already there. So basically it doesn't support reassigning some data. So we'll initialize some like this. So we have a tuple. Make sure that you need to use curve braces, not square like this. The square things are for list. In the same way, third one is for tuples. We'll print. So here you can see type of what are the variable which we created, which is a tuple. So this is how we declare a tuple. So what we can do? So what's the use of tuple? So maybe there is some information which you basically don't want to update it. Maybe in some particular part of code. So if you are having some 20-30 lines of code and you declared something, a list over here, and you are maybe without knowing from your side, there is some information which is replacing that 8 with 6 or something. So you don't want those kind of things to happen at all. So in those situations, you can use tuple, which is immutable. So it doesn't allow you to update information which is there, but we'll get little clear on that one. So if I'm trying to tuple one, so tuple even as accessing data which is there inside tuple will something similar to list itself. If you want to get the data of 0th index, so this is how you get it. So when you are trying to find out which is not there in their bound of area, then it will throw an error that you are trying to find out some index which is out of range. This is the same error which will list also throw. And here we'll try to suppose I want to replace 1 with 2. Maybe I want to replace this 3 with 5. So you before that you can do the same thing on list. You'll be able to do it. So let's suppose list names is there. So I want to change. I want to print it. Names of 2. I want to make it as S2 or something. So where are we printing it? Yeah. So here we are printing it. We are trying to change the second index value, which is Uday, and we are trying to make it as list 2. So it's happening. But if you try to do the same thing on tuple, I'm trying to do the second index, which is 3 over here, and I'm replacing it with 5. You will get an error that you're trying to override the information which is there, which is already there in the tuple. So it won't allow you to do such kind of things. So that's why it will throw an error. Maybe before that we'll please let me know if there is any doubt between list and tuple. So when do we use it or syntax part of it. Please let me know on the chart whether everything is clear or not between list and tuple, or how do we use it. It won't basically take the fixed value, but if you want to add some values to it, you can definitely do it. But the data which you are trying to send to one particular index, you cannot replace it. So when you are trying to do it, it will throw an error that you are assigning something which is of a tuple type. But if you want to append some information, so even if you want to try to append or do any of those kind of things, uh, the only way which you can do is to convert that entire tuple into a list. So maybe I'm creating a variable called pt, and tuple one is my variable. I'm converting this to a list, and then I'm adding it. And so on TT you can do anything, kind of maybe 4 or 5 like this, and again I'm converting back that particular TT which is a list to a tuple. So we can't do this one. We print. So here you can see it added 2, 3, 4, 5 because we are trying to convert this tuple which we have into a list. And we append some information. As you can do anything on your list, we append something, and again we converted back the tuple to that list to tuple again, so you can see it. But there are few cases where you can manipulate tuple data. I'll tell you that. So before that, is it clear on that converting a list to a tuple or tuple to a list, right? Under what situation we do? How is not tuple taken as list as there is no difference in format size? I didn't get your question. So maybe you're asking what's basically the difference between tuple and list, and if the format everything is same, so why do we need tuple? Is that what you are trying to ask? Yeah. So as I said, you won't understand the main use case of tuple right now, but later on when you are writing some 100 lines of code, so you need to follow some strict things. Maybe it's better, it's like a better practice you can do. I don't want my variable which is here, which is tuple one. So right now I create tuple one. So that tuple one variable, I don't want the information which is there inside to overwrite at all at any situation. So I'll create something like that, which is a tuple. And even if you try to assign it at some point, it will throw an error even without knowing you. So while writing your code, there might be a breakpoint where it's updating your list information and you don't know it at what point it's happening. So when you're creating it at a tuple, uh, it won't let override the data which is there in that particular index. So it will throw an error. It's like a best practice when you're trying to write some code or declare some variable information which you don't want to change at all at any point. So the main usage of tuple is that if there is a situation where you don't want to change the variable information inside that at all, the index value, basically the index value, when you're trying to change it, it won't let that happen. Yeah, okay, so maybe you didn't see this one. For list we have square brackets, for tuple we have curved brackets. So this is the difference. Did you see the difference? So before, I think someone was using square brackets and curved brackets. You need to remember that square brackets is for list, and curved brackets here, which is here, is for tuples. Okay, so this is how you define tuple and list. But when you're so you can also have list inside a tuple also. So maybe like this. So here you are trying to print and you are getting everything here, but I want to update of information. This is of index 1. Let's suppose of index 1, I want to make it as. If you see over here, it updated 555. So usually it shouldn't happen on tuple, but it happened because we are not changing the index value of tuple. We are changing the value of which is there inside that index value. So that's why it doesn't matter for tuple. If you are trying to change any information which is inside that particular index, it won't let you override the index. So this is one case which you need to remember, that if you want to, if there is a situation which is happening like this, you need to remember that you can override the information which is there inside that particular index value, but you cannot. So if here we have a number, you cannot replace that number. So even if you try to replace the entire list over here, it will throw an error. Here it's throwing an error that we are trying to assign something to a tuple which is not valid one. So before that, maybe I forgot to explain this. So here you can see it updated. So before that, we'll see one point which I missed on list, that right now you have a list of this one, and you can have list of this also inside, which is a list again. And even again inside this one, you have one more list. Create like this. So right now we have multiple lists, which is basically called a nested list. So if you're having multiple list inside a list like that, so then it's called a nested list. So if you want to access information inside a list, usually do it in this manner. Maybe 0 of 1. I think we did some mistake over here. Yeah, so we gave. Okay, so we are trying to sort. So I forgot we are doing some sort here. We'll come in this part. So here you can see this is the first index. Maybe we'll run. So this is the index value which we are getting, which is there inside this, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all 6 index. So I want to access information which is there inside of this also. Maybe I want to get value of this one, so I'll replace this with something else. Maybe 4 or something. So I want to get 4 value. So in those situations, you need to do syntax like this. So right now for accessing index, you gave like this list of whatever that index which you are trying to do in a square bracket. And if you want to go inside that particular index also, then you can give something like this. If you want to get 4, right now you are in third position. So you can give something like this and you'll get 4 over here. So this is how you can access data which is there inside a list. So if you want to, if there is a list inside a list, and you can have multiple things, not just one. You can have multiple list also inside it. So you are getting like this. So if you want to go a little more inside, again you can use 0, and again you can use 0. No, it's not there in 0 index. I think it's in index. Yeah. So here we are trying to iterate inside of list again. But when you are trying to do the same thing on integers, it will throw an error like this. That we are trying to iterate an integer, which will not happen. It won't allow you to do it. So in the same way here, we are trying to do something, updation of a list. We are updating something, some data which is inside the list. You are not updating the list itself. So that way it won't throw an error. So you can use these kind of things at future situations where it's needed. But usage of tuple also is much more usable when you are trying to uh, give some information to some variable. Let's suppose I need to give uh, students or something, and student maybe roll number 1 is Rahul and Nikhil and such like this. So if you're writing some code, if you're doing something over here inside, which is on the list, maybe even if I try to do some test, it will update. It will put the test inside the 0th index. And I don't want to, even if I try to by mistake, I have written something like this. I don't want to update this array because this list, because information which is there inside is in the sorted manner and the order which it's supposed to be. Maybe roll number wise. I want to. So in those situations, maybe you can use tuple where I don't want my this information which is there over here. I don't want to update at all, even at any point. Maybe if you want to update which is there inside the index value, you can do it on tuple. So this is how this is the basic use case of tuple situation where we can use it. Okay, is it clear that how when do we use tuple and when do we use list? Please let me know on the chat whether you have any doubts on how do we use tuple and how do we use list. Yeah, please. Okay. Anybody else? Please add on the chat that if tuple and things are clear or not. Please add it on the chat whether list and tuple things which are trying to discuss is clear or not. So we'll move forward. We'll discuss one more important thing on data types, which is useful and in your most of your programming languages, because using this, the thing which I'm going to tell, maybe it's little useful for you guys on any of your competitive exams. That some repeated question which you will get something. So common question which you might see at multiple uh, programs is that, so I'm having this maybe 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So you might get a situation where you need to find what are the common elements inside it. So 1, 2, 3 is not present in this the second list at all, but 4, 5 is there. So maybe they'll ask you to find the union of it, or maybe intersection of it, difference of it. So union basically means that the entire information which is there over here in the two list which you have. Intersection basically means that common elements in between those two lists. But when you're trying to find the difference of it, remove all the elements of second list inside the first list. So it will remove 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 from the first list. But first it doesn't have 6, 7, 8. It will basically remove 4, 5. So these are the common things you get in most of your programming questions. The section, union, and difference. These are the common things which you get in most of your programming questions. We have a data type called set. Set will help us to do these kind of things in an easier manner. So we'll see how do we declare a set. So we'll declare a set in flower brackets. So before we have list in a square and tuples in flower braces, and for set we have in some flower brackets like this. So we call this as a flower bracket, usual coding term. So you can use this for set creation. So we'll create one set over here. Uh, don't need to even mention it like that, but maybe like this. Uh, so here you can see we are not printing it. So this is the reason why I use Jupyter, because every time I have to write print and things. Where on Jupyter I can directly print it on one go. So which will save little of my time. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is the data which is there inside the set. When you are trying to find data which is there inside a set, and if you are trying to do it in this manner, you won't be getting it. Uh, it won't basically iterate in the way which you want it to be. But if you want to get information which is there inside a set, so you can directly even on tuple or set, if you want to manipulate some information, you can directly convert into a list, and then you can manipulate those information. So one of the main usage of list is that when you are trying to have any duplicate information inside it. So right now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 2, and again. But here you can see that 2 is not there right now when you are trying to print it. So the main use case of set is that it won't allow you to have repeated elements. It won't allow you to have duplicate elements basically. It will remove all the duplicate elements even when you are trying to initialize it. So that's the main use case of set, that if you want to have unique elements inside your list. So here we have all the students information in this variable. I don't want Sahaj to come again because we already wrote this person's name. So when we are trying to add this information again, it will basically remove from it. So this one example which I am telling, but this is not the use case which we use it. So that's the main reason where we use sets. So did you get how do we initialize a set, and how do we print it, or if you have any duplicate value, whether it's going to have it or not? Please also try it from your side parallelly while I'm doing it, so that it will also be useful for you guys. if you have any doubts in between list, tuple, and set, we will discuss. But if you want to access information which is there inside a list, we have to loop it. Basically, we have to iterate inside the value. We'll discuss on how do we access set information when we go to looping section or looping concepts when we discuss. So right now we cannot directly access. How do we access on list and tuple? So on list and tuple we just use 0 or maybe 1. Based on that, it will return the data that on 0th index this information is there, on first index, and things like that. So we don't have such flexibility on sets. So if you have any questions, add it on the chart so that we can go forward. So but we have flexibility to add information instead of finding it. So I want to add some information, maybe like 234 to the existing set. Here you can see 234, which is added at the end of it. So this will basically help us to add any information to that particular set index. But if you want to update any information, we have an update method which will help us to do the update part of it by creating a new set. So let's suppose we have one more, we are creating one more set. Three, 4, 7, 8, 9. So here, if you are trying to update, it's something like which we do on extend on list, which we do. So if you want to we are not printing it. So here you can see it added all the information which is there from here, and it will remove duplicates. So 3, 4, I think 3, 4 is already there in here. So it will remove those and it will take out 7, 8, 7, 8, 9, and it will append over here. So that's how we can use and manipulate set. Make sure you remember that how exactly these list, tuple, and set works. And add, delete, and insert data here. You cannot manipulate basically. Set, we would have duplicates data inside it, but we can add sets in the same way using update command over here. So the main use case of list is that to manipulate any information at any point we use list. But if you want, there's some information which you don't want to update at all, even at any point of your code, even if you by mistake you updated some information, it should throw an error. So it will throw an error for tuple. But for set, the main use case of this is to not to have duplicates inside a list. So there might be a situation where you need to remove duplicates inside a list. So this is one of the programming question which you might get on most of your exams. They'll give you a list of information like this, maybe original like this, and they'll give like this. So we have so many duplicates, 2, 3, 4, and things. So using set, it's very easy for us to directly remove all the duplicates inside it. So right now we're trying to print original, so we are getting everything, and I want to remove all the things. So I'll convert this list into a set. When you're trying to convert it, we will print also list here. So here you can see that this is the initial list which you created. And here we converted that list into a set. So as soon as we converted it, it will remove all the data which is duplicate, which has duplicates, and it will return that particular set. So we can convert that set to list again. So this I am writing in one line. So here it converted to list again. So instead of doing all the things in multiple lines, we can do it in one line on Python. Like maybe so the same thing will happen. Even final will have the same. Here you can see that there are no duplicates at all. So you might see this kind of problem that you need to remove duplicates from your entire list, which you are getting as an input. So here you can use in single statement like this. You can take a note of it. This single statement will return your list. So here inside that you need to pass the list. What is your input list, and it will return a list which will remove all the duplicates over here. So this is also one useful thing which you need to remember. If you have any question on that one, please let me know. I think we are moving a little closer. So okay, so we will discuss how do we remove any information from a set. So here we have a set, we are updating it, and I want to remove some information. So maybe I want to remove 7 from there. Same way, how do we have on list? So we have something called pop, which will basically remove the information. But when you are trying to do the same thing to remove some information from a set, this will throw an error. So this will basically won't execute anything instead of throwing it. So it will basically remove the information which is there inside that particular item. But if there is no information which is there inside it, then it will throw that. So if you are trying to pass something, maybe yeah. So here we are trying to remove 67 of string. So maybe we can pass. These are also over here. We are trying to remove a variable of 67, which is not there inside the entire set itself. So there is a way to handle all these kind of errors which we are trying to do, that list index out of range and things. So we'll discuss all those things. Exception handlings, those we call as an exception handlings. So we'll discuss those things when we are going into little on how do we create functions and how do we use it, or how do we return some data from a function. So this is how we can delete any information. But if you want to sorry for that. So we have multiple methods also on set which are uh, difference, which will basically find the difference in between two sets, or if there is any difference in between set from 1 to set 2. And we have one more method which is intersection union. So these are the four programs which you might see maybe at multiple entrance exams which you are trying to write. So these four things can be solved just by data type called set. I think we don't have much time to discuss union, difference and intersection. So maybe we'll need little understanding, or we need little time on how exactly these things will happen when you are trying to find difference, union and intersection. If you have any questions, things which we discuss in our entire day, please let me know. Maybe we don't have sufficient time to explain all these things. I don't want to break these things because these three things are not independent, dependent, but maybe I can explain all these things in a single go in an easier manner. How can we manipulate and use this information? But before that, if you have any questions, please write on the chart. How in the things which we discussed, that how do we manipulate information, or how do we use tuple sets or list. Yeah. So yeah. So if anybody want to take any copy and take a copy of this, so I'll share you this Python file once in a week. I don't want to share every day because it's no use sharing every day. So I'll share these Python files every once in a week, so that all the information which you are doing in this class will be inside that, each and everything. I won't remove anything in this, even the commented part, everything which I'm trying to write. So maybe we have like 2 minutes, so maybe we'll discuss two more methods on uh, sets. So here we are trying to remove 67, which is throwing an error. So there is one more method which we can use. Start off maybe 65. 67 will submit the number. And here we are trying to do. So these are also one more thing which I use by Jupyter, because I'm trying to do something over here, and it's showing the output of everything which is there inside the class. It's also a little confusing to check it. So that's why Jupyter is little comfortable to check only that particular part of program. This after. So here you can see we are trying to remove 6708, which is not there inside the list, inside the set. But this won't throw an error. It will basically for a safe side of programming. If it's there, it will remove it. If it's not there, it will ignore it. But remove is not there. It's not like that. If it's not there, it will throw an error like this. That 67 is not there inside this. So this may be useful. So these two have two purposes. So maybe you can take a note of these two. That when do we use it and when not. Remove some data from set. If not, error. Don't throw any error. In the same way, we have one more method also. We can check this also, which is pop. So same thing which we used on list. So pop will basically remove the element in this part because this will throw an error. So here right now it's popping of 3. So here the information which you are trying to put. So the entire information inside a set, it won't be an order. So right now we are seeing it in order when we are trying to print it, but every time you see it, it won't be in the same order. So the order will keep on changing it inside a set. So that's why you convert it to a list and maintain one order. If you want to have any sorting order which you maintain. So every time you are trying to do it, it will be a little different and it will act in a different way. Yeah, so there are multiple things like that, which is like an updated version, like basically in the newer version which we are getting it. So instead of uh, trying the exceptions of remove method, so there is a new method which is created called discard. So that if there is an information, it will remove it. If not, then it will ignore it. Same like how insert is there. When we are trying to insert some data which is outside of index completely. So here we are trying to add a 3 index. If you are giving 30 index, there are no index after like this. So there are no information after this. So when you are trying to do this, it will add at the end. So when it was created, the package was created, that particular method was created, it was throwing an error because they were handling in such a way that you have to give only in that particular range. So then later on after development, so they are trying to not throw an error, instead they'll move it to the end directly. So these are the improvements which on every version which you will be getting. Okay, I think there are multiple questions. So right, follow class from update. Can you quickly explain the last part from dot update? Okay, so here we have update of any two sets. So right now we have a set of which is 3, 4, 7, 8, 9, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2. And when we are trying to update method, it will basically take all the information which is there from list 2, and it will take all set 1. So it will take all the information from set 2, and it will add those two things. After adding it, it will also do that. It will remove all the duplicates. So after removing duplicates and everything, the output will be uh, in these many outputs. I don't know what is this line is giving. Here you can see that we are trying to do this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 234. So it will basically act like an extend which is there in list. So here you can see extend. Extend basically add to list directly. It won't remove any duplicates here. But on list on sets we have something called update, which will add to list and it will remove duplicates as well in the same manner. And in the same way, update, we have two more methods called remove and discard. Remove will basically remove some value from the set. If there is any value, it will remove. If there is no value at all inside that set, so here we are trying to remove 67, which is not there inside the entire set. It will throw an error that we are trying to remove some element which is not there. And in the same way, if you are using discard, that we are trying to discard something, it will try to remove that particular value which is there inside set. If it's not there, it won't throw an error, it will go forward. So this one also useful thing which we can use when, if your code want to be in safe side, that you don't want to your coach to stop at some point. So in the same way, we have something called pop. Pop, same thing which we did for list. So it will basically remove the element which is there at the last, but set basically set won't do in an ordered manner. It will be an irregular way. So it will try to remove the element which is there at the end, and so pop will do the same thing. And so this is the whole thing which I discussed, that here I am trying to declare a list. I want to find only the remove the duplicate elements from a list. So here I am trying to convert this list into a set. So as soon as you convert a list into a set, it remove all the duplicate elements. So after converting into a set, after removing all the duplicate elements, I'm converting it back to a list again, because I want, maybe some of your programs will give input as a list and you need to return by removing duplicate elements. So this is one of the programming famous programming question which you get at multiple things. So these four are pretty famous, which you see at multiple of test, removing duplicates, or maybe there might be few little differences here and there, that instead of removing duplicates, only give duplicates and things like that. So maybe only giving duplicates, we can do those things based on differences in intersection and union. So we'll discuss these three things later. Maybe this will take much lot of time to understand how can we do all the changes. Uh, yes, discuss update version, and you please show the code from the starting. Yes, I'll show. And see, so few people are asking for Jupyter and few people are asking for VS Code. So if you ask me, I prefer to do it in VS Code for teaching purpose, because it will be easier for me to directly execute and do it. But few people are asking for VS Code, but I have to go with the majority. Please let me know on what you want me to teach on, because I showed you the example here. I discussed list above on the top, and I don't know these outputs of list or tuple at all when I'm discussing with sets. But on the output, you can see that I'm getting these many things, because I have all this. I cannot create each and every file for each and every topic which I'm discussing. It's also like a waste of time. But when I'm using Jupyter, it's little convenient. See, lots of people are saying Jupyter, few people are saying VS Code. Yeah, so maybe I'll teach you on VS Code right now. Maybe after a couple of classes, you will understand that there is no difference between VS Code and Jupyter. It will be much easier for you guys also. So we'll go with VS Code right now. Maybe even later on, when I'm writing some bigger codes, even I prefer VS Code itself. I don't do it on Jupyter every time. Okay, so we will go with VS Code itself. But if feeling any problem that we are doing in VS Code, let me know. Maybe I can do some alternatives to it. Please add it on the chat, that what's the difficulty which you are facing that we are coding on VS Code. Yeah, I'll comment the previous code from tomorrow. I'll create into a sections. So every code I do, I'll comment it. So I'm not commenting because list, tuple, and sets are completely related. So you need to manipulate some data, maybe using list or tuple or set. So that's why I didn't comment it today. So from tomorrow onwards, there will be a difference between topics which I'll be discussing. So I'll comment all those parts once I'm done with it. Yeah, so that will take lots of time to. So just creating one file or writing these many things also, it will be much difficult for me to share those codes with you. You won't understand it maybe in a easier manner. So that's why I'll try to come up with a new way. So later on, we won't be having these kind of things. Maybe for those things, I will be creating multiple files, depends upon the situation. But I think majority of people they don't want with Jupyter, so I'll be continuing it on VS Code itself. So one thing you remember that there is no difference between VS Code and Notepad. Both are same. It's basically the only two use cases which I see over here is that everything you try to write something over here, even if there is any error, it will directly show here. You don't need to go or run and then again you get that there is a syntax error. So this will directly find out that there is an error over here, that line of code which you are trying to check. In the same way, we have terminals right below of it. We can directly execute and show it. So these two are the main reasons I'm doing it on VS Code. Notepad will also do the same thing. I think we are late by 1 minute again. So I want to spare 15 minutes of time every day in the entire call so that we can have some QA sessions or discuss some points, anything which we need to do. Please let me know on the chat if you have any questions. Maybe if you are beyond the time which we wanted to be. Take notes of all the questions. Maybe you can ask on the tomorrow's class. I'll wait for 1 or 2 minutes. Please let me know on the chat if you have any questions before we wrap up. Okay. I guess there are no questions from you guys. So please, if you have any questions, please try it out from your side. How exactly list, tuple, and set. These three things work. So that these three are main things. So you need to understand list more and maybe give priority to set and then tuple. So you need to understand all these three things for sure. How exactly we manipulate some data or how do we play with it. These three are more useful in most of your programs. Maybe after we discuss little more on how do we write or declare objects and things, maybe you will much more understand how do we use a list. You might not use every method, but there are a few methods which we use. Append you use at most of things, and insert you use, pop use for most of the situations. I guess no one has any question. So I think that's all for today. So we will meet tomorrow. If you have any questions, please take a note of it so that we can discuss tomorrow. Okay, thank you for joining. Let's meet tomorrow. Bye bye. Have a good day. Okay, you want me to show the entire code? So maybe I'll share my screen again. I'll show the entire code. Can you see my code? Maybe if you want me to. Click and share. Please take a note of it. So I just shared into split windows. I'm just showing the bottom part after this one. So it will be from here. So after this is over here. From tomorrow, maybe I'll give like 1 or 2 minutes for you guys to copy. So parallelly, please take down all the codes. think someone was asking, Rahul, how are you? Did you take the code that you showed on try? I think you need more time, or we can end the session. Okay, I think we'll wrap this up. So let's meet tomorrow. Okay, thank you. Have a good day.